Knowledge is powder. Wait, that's not right. Knowledge is chowder? Flounder! Oh, for goodness sake.
Hello all and welcome back. Today I was sitting at home at 40 Celsius degrees, which is like 105 Fahrenheit. And I thought to myself, maybe it is time to chill a little bit, unintended, and make yet another DPS guide for Frost Mages. So here we are once again. Now, as far as stat priority, enchants, gems, embellish slots, consumables, and that kind of stuff is concerned, please refer to my previous video, which you should be seeing on the screen right now. This way, we do not waste too much time on things that have not changed since the start of the season and get right into the new things that has come with the reworks and the new patch 10.1.5. Alright, let us talk about trinkets first. As far as single target is concerned, Ominous Chromatic Essence, which drops from the third boss of the new raid, Vessel of the Searing Shadows, which drops from the second boss of the new raid, and Rot-Crusted Voodoo Doll, which drops from the dungeon Under Rot, appears to be the best trinkets to use. Other trinkets that are strong and worth mentioning are the following. Spoils of Nelthris, which drops from the last boss of the dungeon Nelthris, Narax's Spiked Tongue, which drops from the third boss of the dungeon Neltharian's Lair, and Mirror of the Fractured Tomorrows, which drops from the last boss of the newest dungeon, Dawn of the Infinite. For AOE trinkets, I would like to divide these into two categories. First, I will mention the AOE trinkets that I would personally use for raid encounters such as Assault of the Zakali. I also would like to mention that these are the best AOE trinkets only on paper and not necessarily in actual scenarios. Ominous Chromatic Essence, Spoil of Neltharis, and Iceblood Death Snare, which is actually a trinket from the previous raid tier, appears to be the top 3 AOE trinkets. However, for Mythic Plus, I personally do not like to use any trinket that has like a use effect, so I only go for passive trinkets because it is really hard to optimize those use effects with your Icy Veins and Bloodlust and what you're gonna do in the middle of the dungeon. Which pack are you going to use it on? They can be very effective if you're running Mythic Plus with a team and everything is very clear cut. But if you're just pugging around, go for passive trinkets. So for these, here are my suggestions. Ominous Chromatic Essence, once again. Igneous Flowstone, which drops from the boss Magmorax in the new raid. And Neltharian's Call to Chaos, which is a rare drop from the boss Echo of Neltharion in the newest raid. However, I only suggest the highest item level version of this trinket, 457. If you don't have it, a very good alternative is Idol of Pure Decay, which drops from the last boss of the dungeon Brackenhide Hollow. Alright, now that we have talked about the trinkets, let us get into some very important Frostmage mechanics, which you definitely need to understand before moving on with the rest of the guide. That is, the Shatter passive ability and Flurry's passive ability called Winter's Chill. So what Shatter does is the following. Whenever you're damaging a frozen enemy, it takes the amount of critical strike that you have. For example, I have 26%. Multiplies it by 1.5. So for me, that would be 39%. And additionally, it adds another 50% critical strike chance on top of that, making it 89/90% critical chance for me, which is basically around the range that you want it to be. It can be taken up to 33% to give you 100% critical strike chance, but that is not what you want, because if you do it that way, you would have to cut short on haste and mastery is definitely the most important stat that you have, so you want to maximize that. So around 26% crit is fine-ish, but of course always sim your gear to understand what amount of stat that you need. Anyway, moving on. Then there's this passive ability of Flurry called Winter's Chill, which basically causes your targets to take damage as if they were frozen. So for example, I cast Flurry on this training dummy, so it's basically these two little snowflakes on my screen. Now that means this target is going to take damage as if it's frozen. So, casting Icelands takes away 1 Winter's Chill. Casting AOE abilities such as Comet Storm or Frozen Orb or Blizzard, they do not take away any of your Winter Chill. So why is this important? Well, you want to be shattering as many abilities as possible. An ideal single target rotation would be something like this. You would cast Frostbolt, which basically causes your target to be frozen. Then you would want to follow this Frostbolt with a flurry, because flurry is this ability that has 3 charges. You see 1, 2, 3, like 3 things hitting the target. So if I cast Frostbolt into flurry, my ability would reach there before the other one. Before 10.1.5, a standard single target rotation would be the following. You would cast Frostbolt into flurry and then cast 2 Ice Lances to use your 2 Winter Chills procs. Life was much simpler back then. Right now, you would like to do something like this, for example. You would go Frostbolt into flurry, then Comet Storm, because it does not waste your Winter Chills procs, and then 2 Ice Lances, for example. So Frostbolt into flurry, and then Comet Storm, and then 2 Ice Lances. Your root abilities, such as Frost Nova or Ice Nova, you see this little icicle thing at the bottom of the target dummy, can allow you to gain the benefit of these effects that I mentioned. Additionally, if you have the talent called the Snap, which you'll definitely make use of in AOE rotation, I'll show that in a bit, that will also apply Winter's Chill to the target. Alright, now that we have talked about the basics of Frost Mage, let us get into single target. For single target, here are the talents that I make use of. Before moving on to the actual rotation itself, I still have to teach you 3 important things. That is, how to use Comet Storm, Ray of Frost, and Glacial Spike. Let us start with Comet Storm. Comet Storm should be cast in the following manner. Frostbolt into flurry, Comet Storm, and then 2 Ice Lances. So Frostbolt into flurry, Comet Storm, and then 2 Ice Lances. Ray of Frost should be used on cooldown in the following manner. So you need to line it up with a Winter's Chill proc. But let's say you cast flurry and then you have 2 of these. You want to spend one of the procs, maybe with an Ice Lance, and then follow up the second one with Ray of Frost. So an example rotation would be Frostbolt into flurry, Comet Storm, 1 Ice Lance, and then Ray of Frost. So let's say Frostbolt into flurry, Comet Storm, 1 Ice Lance, and then Ray of Frost. Now, here comes the hard part. When to use Glacial Spike. The idea with Glacial Spike is that you want to align it with a Winter's Chill, but it depends on when you have 5 icicles. So let's say you're at a point where you have 5 icicles, but you do not have Winter's Chill on the target. So what you can do is you can hardcast the Glacial Spike and follow it by a flurry. That works. Or let's say you have casted something like Frostbolt into flurry, and then you can cast Glacial Spike now because you already have Winter's Chill on the target. So to sum it up, the important rules are: if you have casted flurry and have Comet Storm up, just follow it with Comet Storm. If at any point you have 4 icicles, or you're in the middle of Frostbolt cast or in the middle of a Glacial Spike cast, follow it by flurry to get the effect of Winter's Chill. Ray of Frost should be used on the second Winter's Chill. Again, Glacial Spike should be aligned so that there's a Winter's Chill available when you're using it. And lastly, Frozen Orb should be used when the Ray of Frost is on cooldown and when you do not have any Fingers of Frost procs. Alright, all of this sounds a little bit complicated, so allow me to do a rotation where I specify the opener, show you when to use everything. So, your standard single target opener would be Frostbolt into flurry, then cast Icy Veins, then followed by Comet Storm, 1 Ice Lance, and then Ray of Frost. As far as Temple Warp is concerned, I've seen people use it with the initial opening Icy Veins, or sometimes right after the Icy Veins, or with the second Icy Veins, like whenever this comes back up. I think using it with the second one is a little bit better, but that honestly depends on when your raid needs the Time Warp more than when it is the most optimal for you. So just try to align it with that. Here is the opener. Frostbolt, flurry, Icy Veins, Comet Storm, 1 Ice Lance, and then Ray of Frost. Oof, what an opener. Here is the single target opener. Frostbolt, flurry, Icy Veins, and Time Warp, Comet Storm, 1 Fingers of Frost, and then Ray of Frost. Oof, what an opener. Now, allow me to do a full 1.5 minute rotation. One thing I want to mention before we begin is how to use shifting power. So you want to use this ability to get cooldown reduction on your Icy Veins and your Ray of Frost. Ideally, you want to be using it when there's 20 seconds left on Icy Veins and about 10 seconds left on Ray of Frost. So let's give it a go and see how it goes. Alright, let us now talk about the AOE talents. So here are the AOE talents that I use for Mythic Plus. Luckily, the AOE rotation is not as complex as the single target one, but it is still a little bit involved. So allow me to first start with the opener. The idea is the following. The hardcast Blizzard, follow it immediately by Frozen Orb and Icy Veins, which then goes on to Comet Storm, and then we use Cone of Cold because we are running this talent called Coldest Snap, which basically gives us all these abilities back. After using Cone of Cold, we go to another Frozen Orb, another Comet Storm, and then another Blizzard. And finally finish it out with Shifting Power to get our cooldown reduction. Alright, so let's give it a go. Hardcasting Blizzard, Frozen Orb, Icy Veins, Comet Storm, then a Cone of Cold, and repeat. So that's the simple opener. Okay, we have just learned the opener, but before we get into the actual rotation itself, I still have to mention these very important rules of thumb. Number one, if your Frozen Orb, your Comet Storm, and your Blizzard are down, they're on cooldown, you use Cone of Cold immediately to get them back, and then you repeat the entire thing. Number two is using Frozen Orb on cooldown. Number three is using Blizzard on cooldown, but try to combine it with Frozen Orb because thanks to our talent Freezing Rains, our Blizzard becomes instant cast. Flurry is to be used when you do not have Winter's Chill because, as we have seen, these Winter's Chills, they actually improve the strength of our AoE ability, so use them in between. Ice Lances should be used with Fingers of Frost or Winter's Chill and no other time. These are your filler talents. And lastly, whenever you have a Glacial Spike, use Flurry if you have it beforehand and then cast Glacial Spike. If not, just cast Glacial Spike. But most of your damage should be coming from Frozen Orb, Blizzard, and Comet Storm. Anyway, regardless of which, allow me to show you the full rotation that I use for Mythic Plus. Lastly, I want to talk about utility talents and keybinds. So some amazing utility talents are Spell Steal, which are pretty much useful in every single dungeon. Remove Curse is very useful against the last boss of the dungeon, Latharis. Alter Time and Master Time, probably your best utility talents ever. So what they do is it saves your place, your HP and your mana, and you do stuff, you take damage, blah blah blah, and then you go back to your initial position with all the HP that you have. And Dragon's Breath and Blast Wave are also very useful talents. Dragon's Breath interrupts your CCable enemies. Blast Wave can do the same job against certain types of enemies, not all of them, but I use it pretty much for the same reason. And sometimes to knock enemies off of Sanguine. As far as my keybinds are concerned, you can see them on the left-hand side of the screen. These are for AoE. They may seem a little bit weird to you, but I'm just used to them, so don't take my word for it. I use the H letter for my potions, Alt A for my HP potions, Z for Healthstone. Single targets, pretty similar. There's like Ray of Frost in the F button. Okay, folks, that's it for today. I really hope that you enjoyed this Frost Mage guide. Please let me know in the comment section down below if you have any suggestions or any corrections to my video. I appreciate that a lot. After all I'm trying to do is to serve the community and help people play Frost Mage better. Before I go, I just wanted to mention that only a very small portion of my viewers have actually subscribed to my channel. If you are interested in seeing more DPS guides, more Mythic Plus runs and strategies, gold farms and gold making guides, or you just happen to like my voice, then please consider liking, commenting and subscribing to my channel. Thanks so much and see you again next time.